People have too much time. More people want it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 6 p.m. If we could please rise, we'll start the meeting. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is a special meeting of the Rochester Fire Protection District Board of Trustees, October the 28th, 2021, 6 p.m. Trustee Fairchild, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Ramadka.
Here.
Trustee McBride.
Here.
President Fox.
President Fox is here.
Trustee Ritterbush.
Here.
Trustee Fairchild is taking the roll. All present and accounted for. We have a quorum. We can conduct business.
Thank you. Also, please show present Jim Sinclair, one of the attorneys for the district, and David Livingstone. First item on the business, or on the roll, is the new business, discuss and take action on the year 2021 tax levy options.
I think that falls to me. so if it's all right with the board, I'll address that, yeah. Kind of since we're double teaming, and I'm going to stand up so you can hear me better than sitting here. I think, David, at your last meeting, delivered a memo to you about the levies. We changed our format a little bit this year to try and make it a little easier to understand how we go through the process of recommending or showing you what your levy options are. The important thing, of course, for you all to remember, and I know you're all aware of it, is that you're under PTEL, the Property Tax Extension Limitation Law, which limits fairly greatly the flexibility that you have from year to year. But what we have in the schedule, in the memo that we sent out, is that we look at your 2019 EAV, and we look at your 2020 EAV, and then using that information, we endeavor to make a projection of what your 2021 EAV will be. Now, of course, we don't know that at this time, and we won't know that until next year. So when we work with an estimate of the EAV, it's always going to be different when they actually close the assessment books, which will be in 2022 for the 2021 levy. But if you look in the first table that's in the memo, you'll see that your EAV has been going up pretty steadily. And based upon what's happened in the last 2 years, we set or estimated that the figure would be around $196 million in 2021. We then use that in the following table to give you some information about what your levy opportunities or options are. You have a rate limit in your corporate fund of 0.4%, and that's statutory because you're under PTEL. PTEL moves all of the tax rates to the maximum for regardless of whether you have had a referendum or not. But we show you your rate limits on each of your various levies. You have the corporate, which is your general fund, the insurance, and your audit. Audit has a very low rate limit. And then we show you what your 2020 levy was. This is what you levied this time last year and filed with the counties. We then show you your 2020 extension. The extension is what actually went on the tax bills. And it's based upon the computation using your 2020 levy and your 2020 EAV. County puts that together, and they then do a computation of what your actual tax rate would be using those figures. They then apply the PTEL formula to what you have levied, and that determines how much of that you're going to receive. But the numbers you see, the $592,000 in the 2020 extension, is about what you should have collected or will collect for 2020 tax levies. We then show you the 2021 maximum levy that you could have given your rate limits. Now, this does not take into account PTEL. PTEL is going to be over everything, but by law you can have, you can set your levies as a board wherever you want to set them. You can set them in excess of the rate, below the rate, whatever. Then the county will apply the tax rate limit and the PTEL formula to actually come up with what your extension will be for each year. But in any case, what we show you are two possibilities. One is if you went to the maximum on your levies, and that would be a 33% increase, and it would require a truth and tax hearing. And remember, truth and tax is again separate from the PTEL rules. They're independent. They both operate separately, and PTEL does not have a hearing requirement, rather it has a referendum requirement. So that if you wanted actually to levy at this level, to do that you would have to have a referendum. And so we're really giving this information to you more for comparative purposes than for practical purposes when you're under PTEL. We also give you then in the last column, next to the last column, the figures for a 5% increase. And that's because under truth and tax, you are allowed to raise your levies by up to 5% each year over the prior year's extension. So the figure you see there, the $621,000, is roughly 5% above the 600 or the 2020 extension. Now, that only means that if you set the figures at that level, then you would not have to have a hearing. And it doesn't mean that you'll get that money because, again, PTEL is going to supersede everything, and the formula that the county applies to that will then dictate what your levy amount will be. As a general proposition, the way PTEL works is that it limits your current year levy to approximately the same amount as your prior year's extension. So if you look at the column that says 2020 extension, the 592,000, you can pretty well figure that with some minor adjustments, that's how much you would receive in 2021, unless you held a referendum ahead of adopting the levies, which you cannot do at this point in time, to get authority from your voters to go to a higher level within your rate limits. So most of this that we're presenting to you is informational in nature, but what we do need is guidance from you as to how you want to set the levies so that we can prepare those for your next meeting. And what we have in the material, in the memo that follows, is just an explanation of each of these columns the way I've done it for you orally. And we do that because we send this out to everybody. In some districts we don't meet with, and this is the explanation. So what we're looking for is guidance from you all as to how you want to set your levies for 2021 so we can get those on file by the filing deadline. Any questions, or do you have an idea of what you want to do at this point?
Trustee Remarka, questions or concerns?
I have no questions at this time.
We have always gone with I shouldn't say always, the maximum levy without the hearing, which is a 5% increase. I think that's about what we're going to get one way or the other, and we don't have to have the hearing or referendum, all of that, so.
Okay, I have no question. Trustee Ritterbush?
Sounds like the line on least resistance.
Trustee Fairchild?
Pretty much what we've always done, so I don't see any reason to rock the boat.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we go with the 5% increase.
I'll second.
Motion made by Trustee McBride, seconded by Trustee Ritterbush.
Trustee Remarka,
Aye.
Trustee McBride,
Yes.
Trustee Fox,
Aye.
Trustee Ritterbush,
Yes.
and I also vote aye. The motion passes.
Okay, we'll prepare those levies and we'll have those to you for your next meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation and your work. Next item on the agenda is discussion and take action on the appointment of a new trustee to fill upcoming vacant seat, the procedure to make such an appointment, and the requirements of Section 5 of the Illinois Fire Protection District Act. At the last meeting, during the discussion, I had brought up that my wife and I were going to be moving from the district, which we are still anticipating and taking part of. And in an effort to try to keep a good flow of business, perhaps pursue, ask around, or advertise for interested parties to come forward that might be interested in becoming a member of the board. In doing so, we had spoke to our attorney, who told us that he would put together a notification, an ad to put in the paper, and also it was discussed that we were going to place it on the website and the Facebook page for the district, since this is where we had publicized a previous opening, personnel opening, and see what kind of a response we could get. Our intention was to find out who interested parties would be and have them come forward, and they would have an opportunity. They would set up, the board would set up a interviewing process, and get an idea who would be interested in fulfilling the position. In no way whatsoever were we going to this evening or any other time prior to my vacating the position attempt to fill that position or to vote on that. That information got out. I understand that the agenda that went out may or may not have been totally clear, but it appears that by the interpretation of the agenda, someone felt that we were going to take a vote tonight and assign a new member. That is incorrect. No. I am still the president of this board. I intend to continue to be the president until I become ineligible to be the president of the board, which I anticipate first part of November. I have not set a date because I still have my address, we're still residing here, and that's what it is. So, with that being said, let's proceed.
Well, in light of the information that you've given us, John, I suggest we table this activity until you resign. And then we can follow the recommendations of Section 5 to go about selecting a new trustee.
Okay, and that would leave you with a four-person board. Well, I guess my question would be, in an effort to try to keep good continuity, why not have something in place so that the day that I resign from the board, the board can get together and appoint a new member? As soon as I vacate the spot, why could you not have someone in line to fill that position? Why not come up with a policy? Because it's actually, Marty, it was, according to Section 5, we've got 60 days. I'm sorry, is that correct? Totally 60 days?
60.
Why wait that period of time when, to me, it would be good business practice and good for our taxpayers to have someone ready to go over into that position as soon as I walk away? I don't find a fault in that, but if that's what the board wants to do, then so doing it.
Well, here's some information that I'd like some.
Point of order, wasn't there a motion made?
Oh,
Well, I did make a motion, yes. We're
Okay.
discussing.
Motion, is there a call for a second?
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
All right, let's put it to a vote.
all right.
The discussion comes after the second.
Okay, now we can have a discussion.
I'm sorry, I did not interpret it as a motion. Thank you, sir.
I thought it was, and that's why I'm asking. I thought it was a motion.
Well, I clearly said we'll make a motion to table
Okay,
the
okay,
action
I'm
until you
sorry.
resign.
All right.
Now, John, you've had plenty of time
But let's go ahead and
speak
vote
your
on
case.
this.
So here's what, now we're gonna have the discussion.
No, let's vote on it.
No, we're gonna have the discussion. We'll vote
Oh, okay.
afterwards.
All right.
That's how it works.
Okay.
Now, when you were appointed,
Mhm.
we didn't do any of that. When you were appointed, we didn't do any of
I
that.
wasn't appointed.
And when you were appointed, we didn't do any of that. We just met, we interviewed you people, made a decision, there was a vacancy, we filled it.
Mhm.
What's wrong with that procedure?
There's nothing wrong. It was there was nothing wrong with it. It was your idea, Marty. You were the one that stood up and, Marty,
This is
you were the
section
one that
we're discussing.
stood up and said that you wanted it publicized.
I did.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with that procedure. We were doing that as a courtesy
Why
to
only a
you.
week?
Pardon me?
Why only a week?
Because that's what I came up with.
See, the board didn't decide that.
No, we had a discussion and nobody had any input, so that's,
No,
I
we
took
did
it
have a
upon,
discussion.
I took it upon
We
myself.
had the discussion at the end of the last meeting.
We don't have the minutes of the meeting in front of us to prove what I'm saying.
I know David was here.
I recall it was discussed, it was briefly discussed.
But there was no timeline.
Correct.
I figured it was gonna be something we discussed at a later meeting. It wasn't.
Can I
Sure.
I think that we should have a 4-member board for as short a period of time as possible. We don't know what's going to come up. We don't want to be in a situation with something serious that we end up with a tie vote. We need to do it right. I think that we can advertise another time for another week, go through the interview process, and after we go through the interview process, we can stop there, and when John resigns, we can have a meeting and discuss the candidates and vote. That will cut the time down.
I think we should start the selection process after John has resigned.
Is there any precedent, any law?
You can go about it however you feel fit. There's really no rules on when you start the interviews. There's nothing that says you can't start it before the vacancy occurs. You just can't fill the vacancy until the vacancy occurs.
Right.
If you all wanted to extend the deadline for interested people to submit letters of interest, you can do that. I understand it wasn't discussed. Gary felt it was I assume, a quick time to get people in and maybe fill the seat, as Gary put it, sooner rather than later, so you don't have tie votes. But you can always extend that deadline or put it off. It's really whatever you all want to do. What I would suggest is having something on paper so you don't have this issue, like, we didn't discuss that, we didn't discuss this. And that could be put in the form of a resolution, which I have a very draft form of it right here for you tonight to look at. But that would cover anything that you could cover, hopefully. And I would say if there's something that comes up after the fact that's not in the resolution, that's a question, you don't do anything about it until you have a special meeting and talk about it, even if it's a minute detail, even if it's something that would put this whole thing off for 2 or 3 weeks, even though that could put you in an extremely tough position. Because it appears the board really wants to be involved in every single detail. So that's how it probably should go, from my standpoint. You all can do it however you feel.
Karen, did you have any discussion?
Yeah. Do you have a general idea when your last day might be, so we can, because I just feel like we're kind of floating around out there. It's like, here it says 31st, but was this just a generality?
It was just put in there because at the last meeting, I think John said end of the month, but that's a general.
I just am curious, because it's like, I think if we had a date that we were set for, that we knew you were leaving on the 15th, then that gives us a goal, it gives us something to work towards.
Well, really, at this time, without going into some of my private affairs, I don't have a date for you right now, other than to say that I'm going to say about the second week in November. And until then, I have not changed my address and so forth. And when I do that, and I will be submitting a letter. So
you're still residing here, you're not in Gerard?
I'm still, yes, my address is still Rochester. Yes, I'm back and forth. Okay, okay.
That's when you move.
Yes.
So Gary, to answer your concerns about something serious comes up that threatens the district, and there might be a tie vote involved with that, I can guarantee you that I would protect this district to the best of my ability. And if there is a serious threat to the members or the material or the building, for whatever reason, I would be very reasonable in voting to make sure that that threat is removed. If we're going to talk about painting the walls, well,
Yeah, that's not, I'm talking about something, that could be serious, and, God only knows what it could be, we just.
well, you won't get a negative vote from me if it protects life, limb, and property of this district. But I think, in the way I read Section 5, we really can't do anything to replace a missing trustee until that person resigns. And the reason I say that is because Teresa Sturdy abandoned her position we had a very difficult time getting any contact, getting any information of what her intentions were for several months. When we finally got her resignation, you were interviewed, and you were interviewed, and I believe Ed Johnson was interviewed.
No, he was running for office at the time.
Okay, we did interview Ed for another position, because I do remember that. But I've slept since then. We did not have a list of candidates ready to go. That was never, ever discussed, that we needed a list of candidates ready to go. The same procedure was followed with Randy. We took applications, we interviewed them that night, and made a decision to appoint Randy. Same goes for you. We did not have a list, excuse me, we did not have a list of candidates prepared and ready to go. We interviewed you, and we appointed you to your position.
You appointed John.
You got appointed somehow.
No,
Yes.
no, I ran
You
the
for
same.
office. Okay, I stand
Yeah,
corrected.
yeah, I ran the
Now,
same.
Karen was a write-in candidate, so she was elected also.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, we're putting the cart in front of the horse, in my opinion, and I think the simplest thing to do is just wait till you resign and keep the application open until such time as the board decides to end it after you resign, and then we interview candidates and move forward.
What if we do this? What if we make another publication, because it was short, I'll agree, but make the publication and set whatever date on there, then we have our list of candidates ready to go, and after John resigns, then we interview the candidates,
I could agree with that.
okay?
Okay, there was a motion on the floor and seconded.
Could you say the motion again?
I made a motion to table the selection process until after John Fox resigns.
Okay.
I don't feel I need to amend that motion.
Is that gonna allow us to advertise for,
I can amend the motion to say we can advertise and we can extend the deadline for applications to, well, I would like to see it extended to 10 days after we get a resignation from John.
Then 10 days after that, after my resignation, then you'll begin to look at people to fill my position.
Yes.
Have we had applicants? I'm not aware of it, so. Were you?
That's the motion. You seconded it.
I did.
okay, are you,
Might call the roll.
okay.
Do what?
Did you second his amendment?
I second the amended
Okay.
motion.
Okay.
Trustee Ramadko.
Aye.
Trustee McBride.
Aye.
President Fox.
Aye.
Trustee Ritterbush.
Yes.
And I vote aye also. Motion passes.
Okay,
Can I ask,
are we gonna use this, this resolution? I think it's got some good stuff in there, gives us good,
I think it's excellent.
okay.
I think all you have to do is put pertinent dates in it.
Okay,
can I ask a question? On the email or something we've gotten that had said something about breaking a tie with drawing straws or flipping a coin. Is that really something that we do? I mean, it doesn't seem like in it,
No, we took that out.
okay, because I'm like, I'm not on board with that if that's in here.
It would be a way to do it, but at this point,
So if we have a tie, then what happens? Is it just a failed motion or a
then
failed?
you can't fill, you have to continue to vote until you get 3 votes.
Okay.
but it's gotta be done within the 60 days.
We just put our thinking caps on and
Okay.
we make it work.
Okay, if we go down and fill in these blanks, David, can we, on the dates, can we put 10 days after John's resignation? Or do we need to have a date?
I'd prefer to have a date, because that makes it too spongy. So, and I guess what I'd say is table it, hold another special meeting once we have John's resignation date,
Okay,
and then approve the ordinance then.
okay.
Next item on the agenda, discuss and take action on the attorney's reviewing and working on fire protection district policies.
I had asked David if they had like policy templates that we could use to kind of get the ball rolling, and we talked a little bit. He made a suggestion maybe that if we sent them our old policies, that they can go through them and make suggestions for changes, and then present it to us, and we can go through and edit, approve, whatever needs to be done. The reason I say this is we've been messing around with this for a long time, and it's got to go back to him anyway. Whatever we do has got to go back to the attorney to be approved, and at least what comes to us is going to be legal. And I would like to think that the changes that we would make would be small, and you know, I just see it as a way to get this done.
Would it be better for us to look at it first and put our changes in and then send it to them, and then they can see if that's
Well, that's what
reasonable or
we've
not?
been trying to do, and we just haven't made much progress. And
So we could still add anything. that
whatever
we
he
want.
does, we can change. We have to approve it.
Okay,
It's not for him to approve, it's for us.
okay.
Seems reasonable to me.
Randy?
Trustee Rebecca, any questions or concerns?
No, sir. I think this is a good idea.
And Brad?
I'd like to make a motion that we have our attorney review and work on our policies for the district. Now, this does not include for the operations portion of the fire department. That's their baby. Ours is just the district, the trustee part of it.
I'll second.
Trustee Remarka,
Yes.
Trustee McBride,
Yes.
President Fox,
Yes.
Trustee Rearbush.
Yes,
I vote yes also, motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is to discuss the Open Meetings Act compliance and other board practices, including collaboration, communication, and duties of a board of trustee and a trustee of a fire protection district.
Can we take it?
That's all yours.
Okay. We received an opinion, well, I guess I should take a step back. You all may remember that Marty filed a request for review with the Public Access Counselor about the April 1st, 2021 meeting, specifically the closed session. We received back an opinion from the Public Access Counselor on that and referenced his request for review. And we have a letter which you all should have right here. And it summarizes our review, the opinion, and our recommendations to the board moving forward. And what I'd like to do is read it front to back. That way you can read along with me and hear it come from my face. So I'll just start it off. As you may recall, on May 6, 2021, Trustee Fairchild submitted a request for review to the Public Access Counselor, alleging that the district on April 1, 2021, 1, discussed changing a policy during the closed session in violation of the Open Meetings Act, and 2, took action in open session to amend a policy when the action was not listed on the meeting's agenda as an action item. On October 19, 2021, the PAC issued a non-binding opinion concluding that, 1, the district improperly discussed the policy amendment in closed session, and that 2, the district improperly took final action on a policy amendment when the general subject matter of the amendment was not listed on the agenda. A copy of the non-binding opinion is enclosed with this letter for your review. Based on our review of the PAC's opinion and given the current dynamics on the Board of Trustees, we reluctantly recommend that the district refrain from engaging in any closed session discussions whatsoever, regardless of the subject and no matter how sensitive or controversial. This will ensure there are no closed session discussions or matters which will be subject to challenge. As we interpret the PAC's opinion, the district may not discuss in closed session the potential resolution of a personnel issue with a member by way of proposing modification to its policies, practices, and procedures to prevent future issues. The Open Meetings Act does not require closed sessions, and in the present situation, they should be reserved only for the most extreme circumstances, if at all, and then only with advice of legal counsel. Based on our reading of the PAC's opinion, the district should further refrain from or exercise extreme caution before using the, and this is in quotes, discussion/action regarding personnel matter discussed in closed session, close quote, as an agenda item to take action in open session on a personnel matter discussed in closed session. While variations of that agenda item may have been suggested to afford the board reasonable latitude to address personnel issues, it is apparently insufficient, according to the PAC, with respect to creative resolutions like future policy revisions intended to resolve a personnel issue. Instead, moving forward, the district should include every potential personnel action that may be taken, including oral reprimand, suspension, and termination. Furthermore, the district may want to include a standing permanent agenda item of discussion/action regarding policy or practice revisions, amendments, or additions. The district may determine additional standing agenda items to include on its agenda are pertinent as it conducts future business. According to the PAC, the agenda language at issue in the opinion is not sufficient to meet the general subject matter standard for agenda items as set forth in 5 ILCS 120/2.02. The PAC opines that this is a vague reference rather than a general subject matter, which to us is an unclear interpretation and a distinction without a difference. Again, while we disagree with the opinion moving forward, we recommend that the district include as nearly as possible all reasonable details on an agenda item to describe any and all matters subject to any final action, even if creative and novel solutions to issues generally set forth on the agenda are not anticipated, expected, or even thought of at the time the agenda is drafted. Additionally, moving forward, it is our recommendation that the district refrain from taking any action on any items that are not listed on the agenda, including equipment purchase requests, training requests, waivers of purchasing policy requirements, or any other item of potential action, even if wholly routine in nature. If the item or matter of vote is not listed on the agenda, the district should instead employ the practice of holding a follow-up special meeting with at least 48 hours advance notice and with the action items listed prior to taking any action. To further comply with the PAC's letter, we suggest that the district make available the entire closed session recording from the April 1, 2021 meeting, rather than simply the discussion about the policy to resolve the problem that was at issue in that meeting. We further suggest that the district include on its next regular meeting agenda the following: discussion/action to include in future personnel policies that no trustee will speak about confidential personnel matters to any member of the fire department unless the member comes to the trustee directly regarding an issue. We find it unfortunate that the district is subject to such strict scrutiny for its attempt to amicably resolve a personnel issue. Although our office disagrees with the extreme and hardline position taken by the PAC, we strongly suggest the district abide by it and employ a lockstep approach to the PAC's interpretation of Open Meetings Act compliance to avoid further controversy and unnecessary legal expense. If you have any questions, please advise. Thank you.
It seems like whenever, at least from where I'm sitting, when we make up an agenda, it's going to have to be sent to you to make sure that we're meeting all of these criteria. Is that kind of how it?
If you feel you may need a second look, but even then, I can't promise that I'd be able to include everything that you may want to take action on at the meeting.
Okay. Well, work together to make sure the situation doesn't come up again.
Well, this could easily have been avoided had Bill Riggs been more forthcoming with what had happened back in, I believe it was December.
Okay, well, I'm not
And he
gonna,
was not, and he's not here to defend himself, but his actions and his inability to come clean when he was caught have led to this situation. Now, moving forward, all we have to do is abide by the laws listed in the state statutes for us, and we'll be okay.
well, I don't know, that it seems like it's a little more complicated than just that. What I'm saying is, we need to be very careful, and we need to, if I'm going down the wrong road or something, I would appreciate it if somebody spoke up.
Well,
And the same, if you're going down the wrong road.
that was attempted,
Well,
and it didn't work.
but let's just forget about that, because that's water
Well, no,
under the
but we
bridge.
can't forget about the past, we're bound to make those mistakes again. What we need to do is remember that there's things we can talk about, things we can't talk about. The state, the laws are very clear, and all we have to do is follow the law, and we don't have any trouble. When we try to hide stuff, then we get into trouble,
I'll go along with that 100%.
and that's all I've got to say on that.
Any other discussion?
No.
I would just like to say, if one trustee knows that we all know, I've said that since I've got on this board, it's like, I don't like to hear things, did you hear about this, did you hear about this? And I'm like, no, didn't know anything about it, like, I didn't know we had 2 applicants. Would
Well,
be nice
it
to
wasn't,
know.
it hasn't come up yet, and, you know, I thought that we could just,
But do other
just
board
let-
members know about it?
No.
That there's two applicants?
no,
You know?
No, I didn't.
So
It was all
just
put,
come to you.
it was all put to a stop. I had sent an email, once I had, without going back over this again, I sent an email to Marty and informing him that there was no selection being made, and that we had, discussion was made at the meeting, and that was it. Communication, I'm not going to disagree with you, communication is, but the thing is I didn't know about the emails that were going back between Marty and the attorney, Marty and Gary. You know, so it's not just one person here.
No, I agree.
Collectively, the board is not talking. There is a dysfunction within our board. And there is a trust factor within this board. And I think the people, the district is hurting from, or can hurt from that. And I think we need to overcome that. And I won't be here, but I believe that this new board, if they don't talk, if it continues at the rate that we've been going, we are destined for disaster. We've got a wonderful department, we've got wonderful people and so forth, but we've got a dysfunctional board.
I agree.
That's all I got to say.
and it's bad when the members sit out there and watch all this going on. They have to wonder what's gonna happen, and that's not good.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a dirty shame. But this is where we're at.
Okay, well, let's
So let's work together to fix it.
Yeah,
Or this is gonna keep happening.
okay, let's do it. I'll commit to it.
yeah, just be respectful.
I've been
Somebody's-
waving the flag for 8 years to keep everything up and out in the open.
Okay.
And this is the thanks I get.
Any other discussion on that?
I don't know, Dave or Jim, you have anything
David,
to add
yeah.
on any?
Well, you might want to know, thank you, you might want to know that this letter was not lightly written, and you'll notice it's signed by both of us. We spent a great deal of time discussing this situation,
Appreciate that.
and I think that I have to say that John's assessment of dysfunction of this board is fairly clear to me. I also want you to know that just because I don't show up to meetings, we do stay in touch. Every morning, we talk about the meetings from the night before. And I will tell you that this has been a frustration for some time. One of the things that I did do, David and Gary, thanks for sending the policies to us. I looked at these. I don't know, have you all looked at these? Have you looked at them recently? Have you looked at the mission statement in this thing? The mission statement is that you are here to provide emergency fire, rescue, and medical service in the community. One of the things when David and I were debating how to write this letter to you was my experience has been in the past that fire boards differ significantly from township boards and village boards and city councils. And the reason for that is that you're doing something that matters to life and death. It's not silly politics. It doesn't fill a pothole or have a bench in the park, whether it's going to be green or black. That's the kind of things the village boards can spend days and days and days on. Your business is too important. You provide one of the most essential public services that government provides. And to spend time and money on all of these issues that we've had to deal with the last year and a half is frankly absurd. Yes, we get paid to handle all that. We don't like to get paid to handle all that. So it's a pretty extreme recommendation when we tell you that our recommendation is to have no more closed sessions. I will tell you that in the letter, which we both worked on, we do take great exception to the reasoning of the public access counselor on several points. But it is what it is. And the only way that we can help you, that we can see, is no more closed sessions. Because it seems like every time you have a closed session, you get a PAC complaint. Even though people apparently approved what went on in the closed session. That's not a good system. So I fully endorse, we both fully endorse, openness, transparency, and accountability. Those are the watchwords, they're buzzwords, they're cliches if you want, but that's the way you should be running. Because what you're doing here is way more important than who knows what, who doesn't know what, who didn't get this, who didn't get that. What's important is that when the bell rings, those fire trucks go out the door to take care of somebody's life and property. Not to fill a pothole and not to cut the grass at the park, but to take care of somebody's life and property. And when a board loses sight of that, and believe me, I've worked with boards that have lost sight of that, what happens is what Gary just talked about. You're going to impact your fire department. Your fire department is going to be impacted because if you don't get along, they're not going to get along. They're not getting along with you. They're not going to get along with each other. And operating in that kind of a situation, when somebody's house is burning or going to burn, or somebody is in distress in a car accident, that's not a good thing. It's just not something you can play around with. So, sorry for making a speech, but you asked me to come tonight, you're getting a speech. And I think if you don't turn things around, I think Gary hit the nail on the head. You're going to impact what goes on over here. And that's not a good thing. These guys and gals don't have to be here. So remember that. I'm not saying that they should run things, but you have to respect them. And having that kind of disagreements over the things you're having disagreements over, including picking a replacement, and whether you do it now or later or then or that, that's just not good business for a fire board. Maybe a great thing down at Village Hall or over there or in Springfield at the county board. They've got time for all that kind of stuff. You don't. So, enough said. Questions?
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate the input.
First of all, Jim, I don't believe that's a speech that you just gave. It's the shape of things here. and I think it needs, we all need to listen to it very well and abide by it and look at what it really means. Thank you very much for that.
And we'll be happy to assist you. Thanks.
Any other questions or concerns? Trustee Remadka?
No, sir.
Trustee McBride? Trustee Ritterbush? Trustee Fairchild?
I'm good.
Next item on the agenda is public comment. Yes, sir?
John Kraft. I was told before the meeting, out of the parking lot, and in here, that we misread the agenda and we were wrong on the agenda. Now, I understand it was typed wrong, but reading the agenda, item number 2, tells us you're going to do 3 things if we read the plain language of the agenda. You're going to discuss and take action on appointment of a new trustee to fill upcoming vacant seat, comma, the procedure to make such an appointment and the requirements, the procedure to make such an appointment and the requirements of Section 5 of the Illinois Fire Protection District Act. That tells me, or anybody that reads this, that is not sitting at that table, or the person that typed it, that tells everybody you were going to vote, discuss and take action on appointment of a new trustee to fill upcoming vacant seat. So to tell us that we misread it, I say it's wrong. We didn't misread it. We read the exact words that were typed in there. So if you don't want people to read what's typed in there, you know, I understand that you're going to fix it, but don't type it in there if you don't want to read it. Type it in where it can be interpreted and different.
Thank you for your comment. Anybody else? Yes, sir?
Yeah, my name's Kirk Allen. I don't recall which meeting it was, one of the last ones I was at. There was discussion about surplus funds, paying off some debts. And I've said this at hundreds of board meetings, especially this time of year with tax levies. When you have the surpluses that you have, especially in light of the current inflation crisis that's going on, why raise people's taxes? I would urge you to make a motion to reconsider and not do that. This automatic 5%, yes, the law says, and I know your PTEL, and it's tied to the consumer price index and a certain percentage, I don't recall the exact number. But when you don't need it and you have a surplus, there's no need to continue to raise people's taxes. Because what happens when one board does it, you'll find that, you look on your tax bill, every public body out there is doing it. And the argument is, well, it's just a little bit on your bill. It is, but it's a little bit from every single board.
Okay, thank you very much for your comment.
The other thing, there was a question in regards to a tie by Trustee, is it Ritterbush? The Open Meetings Act is real clear. Accordingly, for a 5-member public body, 3 members of the body constitute a quorum, and the affirmative vote of 3 members is necessary to adopt any motion. It requires 3. So if you have a tie, you have to work it out. Either get somebody to change your vote, or if it's an appointment, you have to find another person. But when it comes to general business, especially with fire and EMS, I have never seen any board ever deadlock on a matter of life and death, or a matter of life and safety. I've never seen that. I know it's been expressed, but I think it's a red herring. I've never seen that anywhere in my 35, 40, almost 40 years of working in the fire service. It's just not something that adults are going to let happen. So I'm not sure what the real concern with that is. I'll echo what John said in regards to the agenda item. The general public is being told they're going to act on an appointment. And that's what we wrote. So to tell us we're wrong, we read it right off your agenda. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for your
I have
comment.
something to say. about any board members are coming out on private property and trying to discuss firmly to whoever is at their house about the business. I don't think that should be done. Do you? You were not there, I was, when Gary came out. So I don't want that to happen again.
I'm sorry,
Gary came out to the farm
okay?
and tried to discuss his opinion on to me, and I wouldn't allow it.
You asked, but okay, that's fine.
I don't want it to happen again.
I think probably moving forward, the best thing to do is for all the board members to refrain going to each other's houses for any reason, particularly if it's to discuss board business.
Right.
That did happen. It was inappropriate, and I hope that it doesn't happen again. If we've got anything to discuss, we can do it here at the meeting.
Okay, anything else? Thank you for your comment. Yes, sir?
One last thing. Thank you for moving forward on this policy issue, because if you don't recall, February will be 2 years from the first meeting I came to point out all of the unbelievable things that are in your policy that need to be updated and corrected. So hopefully it gets done before February, which will be 2 years since this issue first came to the table.
But FYI, we have been having meetings on them, but we're going to want to move ahead further, quicker. It's not getting done as quick as we'd like it to be. Also, the meetings got sidelined due to other things that were occurring within the board. So thank you for your comment. Anybody else? Jim, David, anything in closing? Again, thank you very much for coming, and we appreciate the assistance and the guidance that you give to us on a day, almost a daily basis. With that being said, the next regular meeting will be held Wednesday, November the 10th, 2021 at 7 p.m. May I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion made by Trustee McBride, seconded by Trustee Ritterbusch.